The NCAA has denied the proposed spring game between Colorado and Syracuse. Obviously, you saw Deion Sanders and Fran Brown file paperwork with the NCAA trying to get a joint spring game and really change the narrative of this whole spring game where you're seeing several schools across college football cancel their spring games. This is another creative way that I thought would really revolutionize the spring game. I think coaches have really been trying to do this for a long time, but the NCAA, not carrying assholes of America, have striked again. And Sean, before I get your take on this, I want to read the exact reason why the NCAA denied Colorado and Syracuse's request for the spring game. It says, the committee reviewed and provided feedback to the NCAA staff on a legislative relief waiver request to permit two FBS institutions to engage in a joint contact practice session, a joint non-contact practice session, and 11-11 scrimmage. The first reason, the timing of the request, noting most institutions have already planned their spring practice periods and some are at the end of or have completed their spring practice period. Okay. Number two, the competitive and recruiting advantage gained by the applicant institutions if a waiver was approved to allow these institutions to engage in activities no other institutions are permitted to do. And three, the potential academic impact associated with student athletes missing class time to participate in practice activities. That third one I think is a joke. But Sean, what are your thoughts on the NCAA denying Colorado and Syracuse's request for a joint spring game? Go ahead.
So the devil's in the details. If you pull that sheet back up, Bailey, what's the first word that's said after review and provide feedback on legislative relief waiver? The committee review. It's about time we start putting some addresses on who's responsible for these decisions. See, the problem with the NCAA is there's no accountability partner because everything's committee this, board that, NCAA umbrella over it all.
Right.
Who's responsible for implementing NIL and transfer portal and not adjusting the current college football dates for adding incoming freshmen, opening the transfer portal? Like, they didn't think of this idea when they were involved in their NIL transfer. Who's on the committee?
I would love to know.
It's about time, NCAA, you start giving us some addresses. Because obviously you guys aren't good at your job, and I'm tired of them hiding behind committee.
Yeah, that's a great point, Sean. We don't know who's the committee. We don't know who is behind the curtain making these decisions. We don't know who is really in power, and yet we see the reasons that they gave as to why. What are your thoughts on the reasons listed here as to why they said they denied this joint?
The timing of the request. The request is getting asked because you didn't have the foresight to think about this as a potential outcome of everything that you were doing NIL transfer portal. Second, the competitive and recruiting advantage gained by the applicant institutions if a waiver was approved. What kind of recruiting advantage is Syracuse and Colorado getting playing what you're trying to make collegiate sports anyway, which is professional sports?
Right. Yeah.
They do joint practices in the preseason all the time in the NFL. This is college football's version of the preseason, spring football.
Yeah.
So you're going to make it professional sports, then make it professional sports. Thirdly, the potential academic impact. Get the hell out of Dodge. The way you're currently set up, NCAA, a kid can transfer to a university in the summer, then be eligible again to transfer before the first semester ends. So don't tell me that academic integrity plays a role in any of the major decisions that they have made. That's why we got to start putting the address on committee. I'm tired of this committee continuing to make money because they get paid. This is a voluntary position, right? And not be held accountable, for all of these decisions that lack foresight.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just an unfortunate miss here. I think for Prime to come out and you see a bunch of coaches stand with them and say, we want to do this, and for the NCAA to do this, I'm like, fuck, this is a big miss. We've already seen a lot of noise, with the spring game being canceled. I thought this was a great solution to what some or many are calling the effects of the transfer portal and NIL with programs canceling their spring games. Now, I think with this miss, I'm like, I will say they're saying they'll explore it in the future, possibly next season, but like I don't.
The problem is
not confident.
So the problem, Bailey, is they're reactionary.
Yeah, that's true.
Like this should have been brought up. If you got a room full of people that are experienced and actually have had skin in the game in collegiate sports, when you're talking through transfer portal, NIL, if they really were knowledgeable, the people in that room, something that would have came up was how does it impact spring football? What if a school has a mass exodus of guys that leave in the transfer portal because we have this December date? Now they don't have enough kids on the roster to have a spring game, to do a full spring practice.
Yep.
You know, okay, what advantage do the bigger programs have if a smaller school has a spring game with them sending somebody to observe and basically recruit? And basically, you know, so these conversations should have came up if they got the right people in the room. But we don't know who's on the damn committee. By the way, shout out to whoever in the chat said that JB is the committee. That was funny.
Yeah, shout out to Shay. That made me laugh. Yeah, JB's not the committee, but that shit was funny. Names and receipts here. We'd like to know who's on the committee, who's making these decisions, because it makes no sense. I'd really like to know. That's a very intriguing question, Sean. But nonetheless, I just think it's an unfortunate miss here. And now we go back to regular spring games here. Some programs are not happy and going to elect what they call more NFL style spring practice and format here. But I think unfortunate nonetheless. But shout out to Deion Sanders and Fran Brown for pushing this. Hopefully the NCAA wakes up.